first big topic to focus on, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future. It's something that's been talked about for many, many weeks and months now. And that's only intensified after that 5-0 shellacking at the hands of Liverpool. Liverpool's biggest ever win away at Manchester United in history. That's incredible, by the way. I just want to say that to have one of your worst days in club history against your bitter rivals, that just rubbed further salt into the wounds for Manchester United. But gents, my big overarching question to you guys is what needs to happen at Manchester United now? Because it's an absolute mess. I was at Old Trafford for that game. Man United fans afterwards were just in shock, I think, a lot of them. I actually walked out of the press area and under the tunnel, under the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, and there was a Man United fan on the floor in tears, crying uncontrollably. And that is the lasting image for me of how bad that was for Man United fans. And they were kind of arguing but debating amongst themselves in the queues outside of Old Trafford after the game and saying, we just got hammered by Liverpool and Chelsea are better than them. So that shows how far we have to go. So I think there was like a realization there among the Man United fans of how far away they are from being title contenders. And it really did highlight it because Liverpool were exceptional. They were ruthless, but it was kind of a perfect storm, right? To just showcase everything that's gone wrong at United under Solskjaer. So Nick, quite simply, what's next? What are we looking at and what needs to happen at Manchester United? And I realize I said quite simply, this is not a simple question or a simple situation, right?
Is it? Not for the next couple of weeks. And the fixtures, the most way I can make sense of any of this, the most sense I can make of it is that they're going to bring in Antonio Conte and they want to wait until the tough games are over to give him a soft landing. Because last night, I wanted to get behind the numbers and want to write a really long post, which I did at soccer.nbcsports.com. And at the end of it, the conclusion for me is it's way harder to find a reason to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be successful there. It's way harder to find any excuses for him. Even if you said Varane is out and Harry Maguire was rushed back and Paul Pogba shouldn't start 2 matches in a row because, look, he was impetuous in his 15 minutes out there. Then you look at the resume and you just say he's had 2 very long winning streaks and you can't take those away from him. But he has not had too many times where you look over the course of 2 months and they lost once and they were good in every game and that game was a loss. It's so streaky under him. And that to me says the players, the underlying numbers say he has outperformed expected goals on the field. And the most damning thing I heard was someone mentioning, I forget who it was, but he told his team to high press Liverpool, a team that sees it every day in practice. And they looked like they were trying to execute something as an idea more than something they were comfortable with. And where's the system? I can't imagine that they're going to win more than your random domestic cup with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge.
I think you're right there. And that, as I said, Liverpool showcased and highlighted how a well-coached team is organised. They were missing some key players, Mane, Fabinho. Obviously, Matip didn't start that game, but the players who came in knew their role, knew their job, and were just ruthless. But for Manchester United, the latest with Solskjaer, there's the reports out there saying some of the players are a little bit disheartened with his tactics, as you mentioned there, Nick. A bit bored with the training sessions, don't really see the progression. And you could argue that not many players have actually progressed since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's been in charge there, because the quality is clearly there. So the latest reports say he'll be in charge against Tottenham this weekend. I'll be in North London for that game. Really looking forward to that one. 2 under-pressure teams who need to come out fighting and swinging. And then they got Atalanta in the Champions League, which is a huge game. And then the small matter of the Manchester derby against Man City before the international break. So that's the next 3 games. And then it seems like United are going to take stock of where they're at and decide about Solskjaer's future. But Andy Edwards, I mean, what then? I mean, is it as simple as if we get rid of Solskjaer, then the problem's solved? Because I don't think it is.
No, it's absolutely not solved. He is a very, very small symptom of what has been wrong at Manchester United. And I think with a little bit of hindsight now, we can even say slightly before Sir Alex Ferguson left, the foundation that we thought had been put in place by him wasn't really there. If you look back at the final squad that he had, I think he got out because he saw what was coming at Manchester United, what was coming at Old Trafford, because it was an aging squad. It was a squad that needed to be completely rebuilt. And he got out at the very last moment, right after they won a title, and it needed to be blown up. He wanted no part of that. And so whoever came in, it was David Moyes, and then it was Louis van Gaal. And we know the history there, going on to Mourinho, and then ending up now with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He should have never been hired in the first place. He was brought in as the interim manager. And as Nick referred to, he had a long winning streak, and that got him the job permanently. If you have anybody who has any clue about what they're doing in those positions, making that decision at that time at Manchester United, you do not end up with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as their manager. Mauricio Pochettino was potentially and rumored to be available and at the top of their wish list. You should have gotten Pochettino then. We all said it then. Everybody, every Tottenham fan in the world was terrified at that time. Think back to that time, because it was such an obvious move for them to make. And you look at the success that Pochettino had building there at Tottenham, obviously struggling at PSG. That's a bit of a unique situation. So no, getting Solskjaer doesn't fix this. Just bringing in someone new and changing the tactics doesn't fix the fact that the squad is imbalanced, that the squad is aging, that the squad is incredibly expensive and top heavy, and that there's just no real depth in the team. There's a lot of great stars. They don't quite fit together, and there's no great depth behind them. It's just there's so many issues at this club that have been going on for years and years and years. And I guess this right now, the 5-0 on the weekend to Liverpool, was just kind of the culmination of all of those things coming together in 90 minutes. And it was either really, really glorious if you were a Liverpool fan, or maybe a fan of anybody else in the world, because it's, I mean, if we all admit it, we kind of like watching that happen to Manchester United of any club, because they've done it to teams so many times and because they've been that dominant force. And if you're a United fan, you've got to be feeling despair because this is not turning around quickly, no matter who they bring in to replace him.
And I think this just harps onto the bigger problems at the club, right? With a lack of a sporting director, an overarching figure who makes decisions and scouts and recruits and has a clear plan and philosophy, where the coach really can come and go, but there needs to be an identity about the club. And Ed Woodward is a businessman, a very good one. Man United's figures show that year in, year out. But he has made most of the football decisions on that side. And it isn't, I don't think, we're not giving Solskjaer a pass, okay, as a coach. But I don't think it's fair to have put him in this situation, like Andy said, in the first place. He's a good interim boss, good to, rally the troops. He's a nice guy. Players like him. A very good maybe assistant coach or a U21 coach. But he's clearly taken this team as far as he can take them. He's steadied the ship. Let's call it how it is. He steadied the ship, put them in the top 4. Had some good cup runs, deep in the Champions League a little bit, but with that squad, that's the bare minimum. That's the bare minimum. And now they're getting found out against Thomas Tuchel, Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and even the likes of Brendan Rodgers and those other managers. So it's, I don't think this is going to impact Solskjaer's legacy at United if the next few weeks they move on from him and say, thanks, Ollie. You got us back into the Champions League. You steadied the ship. Man United's now a nice place to work again. And we've got some good young players coming through, but we need someone else with experience and new ideas to take this squad to the next level. That's what needs to happen for me, but not only on the coaching side, but also from a technical director to give a whole fresh outlook. And not even a fresh outlook, because United haven't really ever done that since Sir Alex Ferguson left. It's just been other board members saying, oh, we'll appoint a manager and then we'll buy some expensive players, and that's how it works. No, that's not how it works. That's not how you build a successful team. We've seen that for many, many years, and Chelsea are the prime example. They had a great squad of players, but they had a clear plan, brought in a coach to tweak it, Thomas Tuchel, and he took them to the next level and showed his quality as a coach. United have quality players. They don't have a coach of a similar level. So you can maybe understand some of the reports about the players being a bit, unhappy or not really enjoying training or playing. Down in tools or something like you can never understand that. They should always be trying, but it gets to a point, I think, where the players have just had enough. And I think that's what that performance showed us, that they weren't willing to do what Solskjaer wanted them to do and didn't agree with it. In terms of the new manager, I mean, who next? Antonio Conte is the man on everyone's lips. And you're looking at what he did at Chelsea, and it's kind of similar situation post Mourinho. And a good squad, but got them well drilled, organized, did it at Inter as well. He's the favorite, it seems, amongst the fans. But Pochettino, Eric Ten Hag at Ajax, even Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, all those guys have long-term visions and plans they can put in place. So, Nick, who, if Solskjaer does go, would you like to see come in at Manchester United as manager?
I would like to see Conte there. I think he's a different sort of short-term guy. He's going to come there. What's that?
Could he be long-term, do you think?
He could be. He wants power. I mean, he left Juve not because they wouldn't spend, or I'm sorry, not because they wouldn't spend. They wouldn't spend on the guys that he wanted there. And I just think that this club, and maybe most of the Premier League, needs to start to adapt to the young, shiny toy isn't always going to get you where you need to be. We saw what Thomas Tuchel did as well with a lot of those pieces at Chelsea. I actually look at Man United, and I think if they hire a Conte, if they hire a Pochettino, if they hire a solid manager, they will finish fourth. They might possibly finish third, but they sew up fourth. They really do. And why I say that is because even though they're missing some pieces, January's coming. They were second the year before, and Mourinho put up the most points that anyone has post Sir Alex. The year before that he was canned. They were sixth when Ole took over. They were sixth at the end of that season. There was just a long unbeaten run in the middle. And I think the pieces are there to put together a fourth place finish, honestly, rather easily. You have Ronaldo, you have Paul Pogba, both who have worked under Conte. You have a lot of guys there that have not been utilized well and have not grown. Sancho and Van de Beek amongst them. I'm not telling you they're great, but I'm telling you, looking at the problems at Tottenham and Everton and West Ham and Arsenal, I have the most faith in the pieces here under a good manager. Once again, assuming Varane is fully healthy.
I like Conte to come in short term, but I asked you about the long term.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And no, but you answered the question. But I'm saying I asked you that, and as I asked it, I was like, I don't think he can ever be long term anywhere. All you hear is he runs us into the ground and gets short term. It worked at Chelsea for a while, worked at Inter for a while. I think he got out of Inter and used the transfer exits as an excuse to kind of just move on and transition. So I just don't think he can ever really stay for more than 2 or 3 seasons. He'll be successful in those 2 or 3 seasons, but by the end of it, the players are not on his side. So, Andy, who would you like to see come in? I mean, you said Pochettino. Is he your favorite?
He makes the most sense. He's the builder of all of those, and with proven Premier League experience. On Conte, real quick, I don't like him as the long-term guy either, Joe, and I'll tell you why. I think he would just be yet another symptom of what has been wrong at Manchester United for a long time. And Nick is 100% right there to mention the fact that Conte wants to have power wherever he goes. The next job that he takes, that's why he didn't go to Tottenham in the summer. Daniel Levy was not willing to give over whatever measure of control over the transfer dealings that Antonio Conte wanted to become Tottenham manager. And so he refused to essentially enter into actual negotiations. That's exactly the same situation that we've had at United for the last number of years. Now, sure, it's a slightly more qualified person than some of the business people that have been doing it at United the last few years. But at the end of the day, there's entirely too much going on in the world of football between when you're a manager, if you have to manage the tactics and you have to manage the team and the relationships and the games every 3 days as they are at Manchester United. And then you also want to have control and oversight over the transfers and the recruitment and the scouting and everything. It's just too much. There are too many tools available today that we can delegate these kind of things to a number of different people and have a team, have an executive board that works together on that. And for Conte to come in and want to have that kind of control, that era is gone. That era is long, long gone. And so I don't see him working at Manchester United for that fact right there, because when a mistake is made in the transfer market, and they've made plenty, it's highlighted so much. And when there's a deficiency in the squad, it's highlighted. So what are we doing right now? We're talking about all the deficiencies. I don't think bringing in Conte and giving him that power is going to fix any of those bigger issues that go above the manager level that we've already talked about.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be so interesting to see what happens. Even if Solskjaer wins the next 3 games against Tottenham, Atalanta, and Manchester City, what does that change long term? It's still going to be the same kind of situation, but it does seem like they're willing to stick with him for a little bit longer than everyone else thinks they should, just to see if he can turn it around and go on one of these incredible runs. Because the carrot kind of dangling in front of everyone who watches Man United is that these are world-class players. Like Nick said, Ronaldo, Pogba, Varane, De Gea. This is a squad that can turn it on when they want to. When they go on a run, we've seen it, 15, 16 games unbeaten, those kind of runs. They can do it. So it's just a really weird situation. Long term, I wouldn't be surprised to see Solskjaer leave at the end of the season if he does stick around for the rest of the campaign. And they may well finish in the top 4 and go on a deep run in the Champions League because they have those big name players. But it's all about levels, right? This is my final point. When Sir Alex left, Andy mentioned there, he kind of knew what was happening. He knew that it was slowly turning, the tide was turning against their dominance. Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, they have all spent huge amounts, had big projects that have worked well. And Manchester United have just been treading water now for the last 8 years since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And they're just plugging gaps all the time. There is no plan. There is no clear identity or philosophy. I think that's the most infuriating thing that the sense from among the Man United fans, that if they had a clear plan in place, that they'd be fine with following Solskjaer. But there isn't. They're just going week to week, game to game, trying to figure it out. And it was almost better when he first came in and they were a clear counter-attacking team. Defensively, the other team had the ball and then we'll hit teams on the counter. But teams have figured that out now, sit deep, and then United don't have the tactical nous or flexibility to change it. So, and that's what you get from a world-class manager coming in the future. Someone like Tuchel or of that ilk, Klopp, Guardiola, who can play different ways and get results every single way. So at Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com, we'll keep you updated with all the latest angles and news on the Solskjaer situation at Man United. Gents, we're going to be talking about this for a long time, I think, because this is going to be a slow burn for Solskjaer to see how he fares in the next few weeks and months at Manchester United.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.